Alrighty everybody, welcome back to MJ and Ashley's Little Corner. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about trying to conceive and processes and the LH surge strips compared to HCG surge strips, so ovulation test strips versus pregnancy test strips. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay. So with trying to conceive, it is a different journey for everybody. And it's challenging or not challenging, and there's just a lot of ups and downs to it. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. Michael and I aren't trying, but not fully trying to avoid it right now. So that's kind of the inspiration to my video today. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my last journey with trying to conceive my son, MJ. And it was a little rocky. It was kind of easy, kind of hard at the same time. So we got married and the switch flipped in me and I was like, I want a baby. So I stopped taking my birth control. I took the pill. It was a combination pill, so estrogen and progesterone. I don't remember which one it was. I just know there was a lot of estrogen in it because my body doesn't like hormones in it. So I had issues with previous ones with breakthrough bleeding. So I was on a very high dose of estrogen at that point. So I decided to come off of it. And after 2 weeks, I got what they call a withdrawal bleeding, and 100% it freaked me out. And because you just wake up and you're like, I just had my period 2 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden I'm having another one. It was just awful. So after that, we did manage to get pregnant, and that one was lost. I did have a miscarriage, or it was an early miscarriage. It was around 7-8 weeks roughly. So, but I mean, it still is sad and traumatic. We did give him a name. I say him, I don't know what it was. We named it, and that way they would have a name up in heaven, and we know that we'll meet our baby again one day. It took about 6 weeks for my body to get back to normal after that, and after I had one full period, and then I actually got pregnant with MJ because they say after you give birth or have a miscarriage, you're actually the most fertile, so you can happen again. Now, I do know that about 1 in 5 pregnancies, which is about 20%, actually end up in miscarriage, which is a lot. If you've never had one, they're not fun to go through. They really suck. I don't know how else to explain it. It's sad. It's awful. I mean, you lose your child, you get connected to them so immediately, so it's hard to lose them. And then we got pregnant with MJ. We were really pretty scared just in case. So obviously we didn't tell anybody until that second trimester mark, that 13 weeks. We were okay. We were ready. We were to tell people. And we did, and MJ was a really easy, he's pretty easy pregnancy. I hated being pregnant. He was an incredibly strong child, so when he would kick me, it would cripple me. It was incredibly overwhelming. So, which kind of moves into my next topic, the ovulation test strips versus the test strips for pregnancy. So I have mine, and I use the pre-mom ones. I ordered them off of Amazon. I think it was a pack of 50 of the ovulation and 20 of the pregnancy. And there it's $15 or something like that. It has an app too. It's pre-mom, and this is called Easy at Home. And they're really little, so I mean they're pretty easy. You just need to dip them in something. But pretty much the difference is your ovulation test for ovulation. So it measures 2 different hormones because they look pretty similar, and that's the LH. I'm not gonna lie, it's very long named I'm not even gonna try. So it measures that. It also similarly does measure the human HCG, the pregnancy hormone. I am not a doctor. I am not in anything. I am not good at pronouncing those names, so I apologize for that. So, with the fact that they do measure two hormones, they technically, if you can use them right, can use them as a pregnancy test. And I will explain the differences and why it may not be the best. So it measures if you're having an ovulation surge. So it has two lines. It has it has the test line and the control line. So the control line is always going to be one color, dark. That now your test line will either be light or darker than your control line. So if it's darker than your control line, that is the only time it's positive. You will always have a line regardless. It's very rare if you don't, but you really do, unless it's absolutely zero. And I don't think that's possible, if I'm being completely honest. So it will, if it's super dark, then it's positive. And you need the test line to be darker than the control line. And that's when you have your ovulation surge. That's when you're going to ovulate that day. It's usually the 14 days after, like in your new cycle of your period. And that is technically your most fertile. So that is the day you want to try to conceive. I was also told to try to conceive every other day, so you obviously have a day off, but like the week from that whole week of when you ovulate. So you want to start, let's say you ovulate on Wednesday, you want to start on like Sunday, Monday, do every other day, so that way it comes up to that day of ovulation, so you have the best chance. You don't want to do every day, but every other day is what I was told by my midwives. So, also with the positive, since it does test for HCG as well, which is what your pregnancy test tests for, is if you have enough in it, it will also come up positive. If you're gonna use an ovulation test to test for pregnancy, only use it if you have missed your period and you want to use that. I would use ovulation tests for pregnancy tests. A circumstance would be because they're significantly cheaper than a pregnancy test. So only do that if you've missed your period and you're just like, maybe I've ovulated, maybe like let's just go ahead and see. If it's positive then, or if you've already had a positive, there is a possibility, but I would still double check with the pregnancy test because you just never know. Also, if you do use a ovulation test for a pregnancy test, they're not nearly as sensitive as a pregnancy test. So it takes a lot more of the hormones to get a positive on an ovulation test using them as a pregnancy test. So let's say you have a first response 6 days sooner or whatever pregnancy test that will test positive if you are pregnant way sooner than an ovulation test. So it is better to use a pregnancy test. Pregnancy tests only measure the HCG hormone, not the LH. So this one will tell you if you are pregnant. They say they're very effective. People are like, oh, you could get a false positive. False positives aren't really necessarily a thing. You can have a chemical pregnancy. So if you have a false positive, you do have that HCG hormone in you, because that is what happens. You either had a very early miscarriage, which is also considered a chemical pregnancy. So it was everything combined. It was there. It just didn't fully attach, start to develop, so it just kind of escaped. But there still was that residue, so you still have that hormone in you, which will give you a positive. So yes, it actually is correct on saying you are pregnant, you just aren't anymore. It's just a little bit of a residual kind of effect. It will not test if you have a miscarriage. So again, if you test at 10 weeks but you had a miscarriage at 8, if you still have residuals, you will still have that hormone and you might still test positive. If you are 10 weeks pregnant and you have it, it will still work. Yada yada yada. That's the way it works. It will always, if you have any sort of that HCG hormone in you, it will test positive, and all of them will. So always, I would say, use a backup positive. If you don't believe it, take another one. But no matter what, if it says yes, it is a yes, even if there's a very faint line. So with the lines on pregnancy tests, they're different than the ovulation test. Ovulation test, the control line has to be lighter than the test. The test line has to be darker than the control line for it to be positive. For a pregnancy test, if it is positive, there will be a line. If it's negative, there will be no line. If there is positive, there will be some sort of line. So faint line, anything, you can only use them for up to a certain amount of time, like 10 minutes. Otherwise, you'll start to get an evaporated line. So it's kind of not worth keeping them. If you want to keep them and be sentimental, I don't really recommend it because it's just going to change over time anyways. The only test I would take would be the ones that have a pink line. Don't take the ones that have a blue line, because the blue ink kind of meshes and it looks like there is something there when there really isn't there. So definitely use the pink ones. At least that's something I would say I would recommend. I would only use the pink ones or the electronic ones. They're pretty cool too. And it will tell you pregnant, not pregnant. It will just, that way it's clear as day right there. The pregnancy test, sorry, MJ's moving a little bit. He's taking a nap. So if there's any sort of line, there. I know if you're really trying to conceive, you do all sorts of things to try to see a line. You try to look at it in different lights, hold it up to the light, look through the back. Those do give misinterpretations. If you hold it up to a light as the first response, you can kind of see through it. You'll see a line there and you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's positive, but it's not. It's just there just in case, like, that your hormone's there to make it darker. No matter what, if the hormone's there, you will be able to see the line without having to look at it versus another white thing or do anything else towards it. If you're pregnant, it will absolutely tell you. If it's not, unfortunately it's not, and you can go back in an hour later and it won't change. So only record them after, so like 10 minutes. Follow the directions for pregnancy tests to the T, because that's the way they work the best. Don't give up hope if you have it. It takes, from what I understand, that it takes somebody under 30 about 6 months sometimes to get pregnant, or longer. It can take anybody as long to get pregnant. It just kind of depends on you and your hubby or your partner, whoever you're trying to conceive with. It doesn't necessarily take the first time, and it can be a bumpy road. It can take forever, but the little bundle of joy you're gonna have is just the best thing in the entire world once you get there. Okay, so my journey now with possibly wanting a second kid is kind of just beginning. So I've been on what they call the mini pill. So it's a progesterone only birth control pill since MJ was born, a little bit afterwards. So it's a progesterone only pill. It's the only birth control pill that doesn't affect your milk supply. So those taking it will be women who are like nursing and breastfeeding. Pretty much if you're pumping or breastfeeding, that's the pill you're gonna take. I actually love it. It's my favorite pill I've ever taken. It also clears up everything, and it didn't make me gain weight or anything like that. So I actually why I like it, and I would take it regardless. The only thing about the mini pill that's kind of a pain in the butt, that you have to take it every day at the same exact time. If you take it 2 hours past, 3 hours past, it is not effective anymore, and you need backup for 48 hours. So that's that pill. And I've been doing some research on it. So the side effects are kind of a pain in the butt. They make you think you're pregnant because the side effects are pregnancy symptoms. So I personally have gone through a point where I'm like, what is going on? I take it regularly. Why am I feeling all these like symptoms? That's because they're side effects to the mini pill. So with the mini pill, MJ's only 6 months, a little over 6 months, almost 7 right now. So technically they do recommend you wait a year so your organs and stuff can go back to normal. I mean, and everybody's different. I mean, you kind of know when you want one. So where it is April right now, we're thinking about trying to start trying again in July. So being on birth control, you kind of have to prepare your body in a way, let it get back to normal. So I am trying to not take my pills anymore so I can actually start to have a period and let my body go back to normal. So I can, and I'll know what everything feels like again, and I can track stuff better. And I will be able to track my ovulation to see where my body is and stuff and what it is. I also have a basal body temperature thermometer, and that is a good way. I'm not good at it, but if you're good at it, it's a good way to track your ovulation, because your temperature will spike when you ovulate. And I'm kind of always hot anyways, but so I don't really take it. It doesn't work for me, because you also have to take it before you get out of bed, and you just stick it in your mouth and you let it take your temperature. But you have to do it at the same exact time every day before you get out of bed to see what your core body temperature is before like you're active. And I am not good at doing that, so I kind of really suck. So when we start actively trying again, I'm going to probably hopefully get good at that, but who knows. So that is another way to do it. It's trying to have kids is fun. Having another one for me personally, just because I've had a miscarriage before, makes me very, very nervous because of having a miscarriage before, that I'm nervous to have another one. And I know, and I don't think it runs in your family, because I don't think my mom ever had one, but my grandmother, my mom's mom, had 2, one before each child, my uncle and my mom. So you just get a little nervous, but it's so worth it in the end, and it's worth the journey. So I hope you guys can use these tips and tricks to help with your trying to conceive journey. Maybe try to use to like track your LH surge, your ovulation, and maybe if you get good at it, you could try to use it as a pregnancy test. Again, only do that if you've missed your period or whatever, and always use a backup test, pregnancy test, just in case. But I hope you guys learned something from this video. Thanks so much. Have a great day.